Hi, it's Christina at Cemetery of Choice. Today's September 11th. We are going to look at a lot of abortion deaths today, from safe and legal to the bad old illegal kind, including a woman who chose an illegal abortion when legal abortions were available, and a socialite who wound up dead in the early 1960s. So I'm going to start with the most recent, which was the ever so safe and legal. A young woman named Diane, 23 years old, was one of the women mentioned in the Chicago Sun-Times expose, The Abortion Profiteers. And according to the report and her death certificate, Diane was admitted to Englewood Hospital in Chicago due to hemorrhaging. She told staff that she'd had a legal abortion in a Chicago area clinic. She was treated for a perforated uterus and sepsis, and then died on September 11, 1976. And the Abortion Profiteers was an example of pro-choicers actually caring what happened to women. And unfortunately, the media doesn't do that sort of thing anymore. Maybe sometime I'll do a video about the amazing work that they did, showing that you can be pro-choice and still care about what happens to women once they go inside the abortion clinic. It is possible. You don't have to turn a blind eye in order to be pro-choice. Now, we'll move back in time to 1970. And William Day was a 21-year-old microbiology student at the University of Massachusetts, and he was planning to become a doctor. He got a 5-year suspended sentence in the death of his girlfriend, 21-year-old community college student named Nancy. He had performed an abortion on her with a catheter in his apartment on September 10th, 1970. As she bled so heavily that he rushed her to a hospital in Boston. Staff notified the police, and this might be why he got off so lightly. Day did remain in the hospital, concerned about what was happening to Nancy. He was arrested about 7:30 that evening. Nancy, who had been about 3 months into her pregnancy, died of blood poisoning the next day, a few hours after her admission. Now, what's confusing here is that this is Boston. It's not that far to New York. Abortion had been legalized in New York. There were abortion clinics all over the place. Now, granted, some of them probably weren't any safer than letting your boyfriend use an aquarium tube or a catheter or anything on you in your apartment. And you can look at what Jesse Ketchum was doing in Buffalo. I think you'd be better off with your boyfriend. But at least that would have made some sense. And there were hospitals in Boston that were really loosening up the guidelines for therapeutic abortions. So it's unclear to me why they went that route when there were safer routes available. Now we move ahead to what happened to socialite Barbara Covington. Gynecologist Mandel Friedman was out on bail for the abortion death of another woman at the time. He was awaiting trial when a 31-year-old Madison Avenue advertising executive named Franklin Beck brought Barbara Covington, a divorcee, to his practice on September 10th, 1962 for a consult. Beck said that he did not want the abortion, but that's what Barbara wanted. He said he wanted to marry her, she wanted the abortion. Difficult to say, he said, and she had no chance to say. So he got together the $1,000 abortion fee, which is over $8,000 in 2020 dollars, and brought her by on September 11th. He said that he waited for about an hour while Friedman had Barbara in the back, only to have the doctor come out and announce she's gone. Now, Beck said that he told Friedman he was going to call the police, but Friedman said, "Don't, you'll get us into trouble, you'll ruin us, think it over." And he was already in some trouble himself. He told Beck to say that Barbara had gone into convulsions and died of a heart attack. So Friedman contacted a funeral home to arrange for the removal of Barbara's body. Now, supposedly, according to abortion rights lore, all he would have to do is write heart attack on the death certificate, and they go, "Oh, okay," and Nobody'd be any the wiser. No, the undertaker needed to get a permit to remove the body, so he requested permission from the Board of Health. The Board of Health said to contact the medical examiner's office as a matter of routine, because because a young woman dying in a doctor's office like that. So the medical examiner reported the case to the police, and they recognized Friedman's name because he was out on bail pending trial for Vivian's death. So he was questioned by authorities and released again on bail, pending the completion of the autopsy. And he was scheduled to surrender to the Queens District Attorney's Office, but instead he fled, leading to a 13-state manhunt. 13-state manhunt. They took this stuff seriously. When, I can't remember his name, doctor performed a fatal abortion on a young woman named Barbara Fermento. They got Interpol involved. He was in Europe when they captured him. They didn't treat killing an abortion patient like it was no big deal. Who could possibly care what happened to this woman? The autopsy showed that Barbara's windpipe had constricted during anesthesia, and she'd basically suffocated. Friedman was tracked down and captured. After some legal wrangling, he entered a plea bargain. He got the manslaughter charges dropped, and he was sentenced to only 2 to 4 years in Sing Sing on abortion charges in both women's deaths. Why did they switch from this is a big deal to it's no big deal? I don't know. Probably a little bit of cash. And as a little bit of an aside, like so many abortionists, Friedman had 2 charges on his record for indecent exposure. And we go back to 1918 in Chicago. And on the evening of September 11th, 1918, a 35-year-old homemaker named Gertrude died in Wesley Hospital. She had been admitted by Dr. John Gill, who was treating her and noticed evidence of an abortion. So they investigated when Gertrude died and arrested Dr. Helen Dugdale. Now, Dugdale had been implicated the previous year in the abortion death of Marie Benzing, and I haven't been able to determine the outcome of the case. I believe that she was prosecuted 2 years later, but I haven't been able to find anything. Like, share, subscribe. Let's find out what was going on here and how these doctors were able to get away with it.